Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to part 3 of the truth on the coronavirus. You're wondering, why do we have those dolphins in there? Well, we're going to talk a lot about what's really killing us. And for those who are willing to confront what is there, we need to confront how bad it can get, and it will get, unfortunately. I don't like to spread bad news, but I do like to see what is. You understand? Where we at? I mean, several years ago, I had to confront the toughest thing for me in my life was to confront how ignorant I was. I thought I was very knowledgeable. Then I got a list of the different abilities that I needed to acquire to be successful in life. 85%, 90 of them were missing in my life, but I thought I was the hottest shit in the world, and I wasn't. It's taken me several decades to hack myself and know what the hell I'm doing, and that's why I'm here. That's why I'm able to communicate, and I've learned how to investigate and find out data, screen it, verify it's truthful and it's applicable, just like I'm doing now. It feels like, honestly, it feels like I've been preparing for this all my life without knowing what it was supposed to be for. So anyway, I am somewhat scared of the circumstances. Data's data, which I'm going to share with you today. But at the same time, I'm not going to sit here and shake or run away from it. I'll communicate and I'll help other people get the data. And in this 4-part series, you will have all the data. As a matter of fact, number 4 will be what you can do immediately right now to hold it, prevent it, stop it, or do the best you can under the circumstances you're in. Okay? So just hang in there. We'll get to that. But now we need to have more data so we can totally understand what really is going on and what really will be happening. Not because I say, oh, I have a crystal ball or anything like that. It is what it is. And we just have to face it. Okay? All right. So let's start. And there's my dolphins and there's my name again. You know this by now because if you reach number 3, that means you did 1 and 2, correct? All right. Here we go. So we are recording. We're going to share screen. We're going to go here, there, and we will now have that's my desktop. Okay. And there we go. First picture is that house that we call the last house standing from Hurricane Ike here in Texas. And the reason I point this out constantly is to show a point where we may be trained to see things from a different angle, from being a victim. You understand? Being a victim. You did this to me. You lied to me. You said this to me. You know, victims don't get very far. All the intentions of a victim is to make someone guilty of something that they did to them, you know, and they make sure they don't heal or cure themselves so they can always see what's happening to me. Anyway, when you look at life from a cost point of view, we could look at that house and say, you know, why is it still standing? Because its basics, its foundation was made solid to withstand the hurricane. Why aren't the other ones? Because they weren't. Not because a hurricane went by. That's the wrong cause. That house proves it. And that's why I pointed out Rene Quinton. His viewpoint is like, hey, germs do exist. I'm not saying they don't. When they come into my system, they die. We have resistance. We have the good immune system, right? And on the other hand, total effect point of view is Louis Pasteur. Oh no, they exist, and we're all going to be contagious, and we're all going to have this, and we need to have vaccines, and we need some pills and some treatments and more drugs. I wonder who sponsored him. Can you guess? There we go. All right. So we also looked at the fish in the ball, which we're going to get very deep into it this time. You cannot say that this infection contagious of dolphin to dolphin. No, it was the water. It was what's in the water. If you take a very healthy dolphin and put it inside that water, it's going to die. So you're going to say, oh, because the other dolphins, they were contagious with this virus? No, if I go into the same environment that's killing people, I'm going to die too, especially if my immune system's screwed up. Right? Very simple. Same as the house. Why did the house stood there? Because it had a good immune system. Basis, foundation. You understand? The foundation, the senior thoughts that he has, the senior idea that he's thinking with. Okay? And this is why we find different people with different realities. Because we think with data. You understand? You're thinking with data. You think with your education. You think with your programming. Like a dentist looks at your teeth, he sees things that I won't see because I'm not a dentist. Now, one of my professions were air conditioning. I can look at your air conditioning from a distance. I know almost 80% of the time, I know exactly what's wrong without even getting close to it. Right? So we have different realities based on the program, the data we're thinking with. Right now, we're hiding away. We're running from this, that, distances and 6 foot distance. And, well, once you have all the data, you're going to see that it doesn't really matter how far away you are. By the time you finish this lecture, you can run 6 miles away and you're still going to get it. You understand? But we didn't have the data. Now you do. Now you make up your mind. Okay? So anyway, that's what reality is. The things that we've agreed to. It's reality is all about. Well, my reality is that I am cause. I can do always something about it. And I do. This is why I'm doing what I'm doing right now. Okay? So we covered number 1. Step 1, how do you handle any problem? Observe and accept something non-optimal. I think we're pretty sure on that one, aren't we? Worldwide this time. And 2, acquire the correct data. That's what I'm giving you. You take it up. You decide if it's correct or not. Okay? And as we do this, we investigate and find the correct cause. Correct cause is simple like the switch. On, off. On, off. We're going to talk about that. The on and off phenomena, okay? So, before we continue, let's clear what immune system is. The word immune system comes from immunology, all right? It is a state of resistance, natural or acquired, that certain individuals or species possess against certain pathogenic actions or microorganisms or foreign substances. Here, put all those technical words into this picture. Got it? Your immune system comes in like Rene Quinton says, you die. It doesn't harm me. Same as that house. The house had the resistance towards the hurricane. See what I'm getting to? So Rene Quinton's viewpoint was that. And he increased the immune system with seawater. Imagine that. That's something I've been drinking for 8 years since I did a study on this. And I'm like, all my family drinks seawater. We go to the beach. We go to Clearwater. When we're in Florida, we come here to Galveston. I know you're going to say, well, it's contaminated. Do some research. It doesn't really get contaminated. If it does, it's just a matter of minutes or hours. It cleans itself up because of the acidic, the salt level that's incredible. But what it does to the body has already been tested and proven by Rene Quinton. Okay? Anyway, do some research on that. So, our real issue, before we continue, our real issue, the real issue of all that's going on is because we have an incredible inability to think. We don't know how to think. Think about it. Have you ever done a course on how to think? How to evaluate data? How to investigate? No, right? I know that the inability to think is the cause of all illnesses, barriers, stops, and difficulties in life. I've been doing personal and administrative consultant for over 30 years, and it's never failed me. What are you thinking with? Oops. How do you get that data from? Where do you get that idea from? Oh, someone told me. Don't you filter? Don't you know how to analyze data like good apples or with bad apples, good oranges and bad oranges, and you just keep squeezing or what? So anyway, that's my point. And today, with this lecture, I'm going to give you more data. And I'm going to give you data from very, very educated people that you can verify their credentials. But bottom line is it real for you? Forget the credentials. Is it real to you? Does it make sense to you? That's all I want. I'm going to give you the data. You decide. Okay, here we go. So remember that the Boston Public Health Commission in 1918, right, decided to investigate the contagiousness of the Spanish flu. They took hundreds of people, infected them with the virus, sucked their snot from their noses as well as blood, and injected it in healthy people who did not have the flu, and not one time can they make the next person sick, like the dolphin, right? Remember, unless you put them in the same space. They did it over and over again and were not able to demonstrate contagion. They also did it with horses who apparently had the flu. They put bags over their heads, the horses would sneeze, and the bag was then placed in another healthy horse, and not one horse got sick. Same with the dolphins. Unless you take the dolphin, healthy dolphin, and put them in the water who's already contained with oil from Exxon Valdez shit, right? On, off, on, off. So it's sort of like the switch on, off. Does that make sense or does it make sense? Before Exxon Valdez, after Exxon Valdez. Before Exxon Valdez, on, off, on, off. That's the point I'm trying to make. Okay? So here we go. We talked about a game changer, Rudolf Steiner. Great man. I actually did some more research on him. I think he had his head screwed in right. In 1918, after the Spanish pandemic started, when asked what was this all about, he replied, viruses are simply excretions of toxic cell. That means here's cells that are being intoxicated by some reason, and they poop everywhere, they vomit or something. And then when they see it through a microscope, oh, it's a virus. Well, viruses are simply excretions. Okay, viruses are pieces of DNA and RNA and other proteins that come out from the cell. Well, that makes sense. They happen when the cell is poisoned. So shouldn't we be looking at what's poisoning them? Right? If we get it right, we can stop the poisoning. And then the pooping. They are not the cause of anything, Mr. Rudolf Steiner says. Whenever expose any biological system to a new electromagnetic field, you poison it. You kill some and the rest go living longer but sicker. Oh, I wonder that. Well, how does that have to do? We covered that already. Cancer, leukemia, brain tumors, on and on and on and on, huh? Okay. In the late fall of 1917 was the introduction of radio waves around the world. First time ever humans were exposed to this. And that's what really started the Spanish flu. We don't talk much about that, do we? So is it on, off? On, antennas, no antennas. Antennas, no antennas. Simple, right? Simple to prove. Okay. So we talked about the cell phone technology. Remember, that's the first type of cell phone we had. In 1997, there was a 31% increase in the number of cases of diabetes in the United States in a single year, which precisely correlated with the mass introduction of cell phones in the country. 31%. Now, on, off, on, off, on, off, on, off. Right? Is it an opinion? Is it an opinion that the lights went on? Is it an opinion the light turned off? Is it an opinion? Come on, man. Here we go. Last is Dr. Neil Sherry. In 2000, Neil Sherry analyzed the cancer rates of children in San Francisco in relation to the distance. Here's the antenna, here's the distance, between their home and the television and FM radio transmitters on Sutro Tower. This man's still alive, by the way. I heard him a few days ago. Children living on hills or ridges were more affected. Those who live within 1 kilometer of the antenna had a 9 times higher incidence of leukemia, a 15 times higher incidence of lymphoma, and a 31 times, man, that's a lot, man, higher incidence of brain cancer. Overall, an 18 times higher rate than those living outside 1 kilometer radius. Is that an opinion? It's not an opinion, is it? Come on, man. That's the Sutro Tower. And I'll ask you again, tower, no tower. Tower, no tower. What do you think? Think with this. Come on. All right, now, here we go. So we have the dolphin, and we have the dolphin within water. And that's what he breathes. That's what he's, or surrounded by, right? Now, based on this datum, whenever exposed by any biological system to a new electromagnetic field, you poison it. You kill some and the rest go living longer but sicker. In this case, the Exxon Valdez wasn't not an electromagnetic field, but it was oil. Oil, different type of energy, but oil. It infected him and killed hundreds and thousands of animals, right? It just screwed up big time. Now, let's think with this. Here's us, right? And we're not surrounded by water, but we're surrounded by air. What would happen, just think with this, if that air is infected? What would happen if that air is double infected? Like more radio waves, not only radar, but Wi-Fi and triple Y and sikidikidi, anything you can think of. More infected, more saturated. What do you think is going to happen? Here we get this: brain tumors, bloody noses. We get cancer, on and on and on. Why? Because we got good old antennas or good old satellites all over the place. Boom! Microwaving planet Earth. Satellite, no satellite. Antenna, no antenna. You make up your mind. Okay? There we go. So, on September 23rd, 1998, 66 satellites launched into low orbit by the Iridium Corporation commenced broadcasting to the first ever satellite telephones. Those phones would work equally as well in mid-ocean and in Antarctica as in the middle of Los Angeles. A remarkable achievement. But telephone interviews revealed that on that day exactly, electrically sensitive people, some are more sensitive than the other, but we're all electrically sensitive. We all are. Sooner or later, you get it too? Oh, okay. All over the world experienced stabbing pains in their chest, knife-like sensations in their head, nosebleeds, asthma attacks, and other signs of severe electrical illness. Many did not think they were going to make it. Statistics published by the Centers for Disease Control reveal that the national death rate rose 4 to 5% during the following 2 weeks. You're kidding. You know what 1% is? That's quite a bit of people when you do by the millions. Thousands of homing pigeons lost their way during those 2 weeks all over the United States, thanks to these good old 66 satellites. 66. Now you may be saying, why is he mentioning it? Just 66. Okay? Only 66 in 1998. Why is Henry putting emphasis on 66? Here we go. Several companies are now competing to provide not just cell phone service, but Wi-Fi and the equivalent of 5G to every square inch of the Earth from satellites in space in low Earth orbit. Like really close. Their target dates are 2019 or 2020. What date are we on right now? Okay. They're planning not 66 satellites, but tens of thousands of satellites. You know, when I read this, I said, no, it can't be that, man. It's bullshit. I can have tens of thousands. Well, here we go. There isn't much time to prevent global ecological catastrophe. Have you seen these commercials? Let's get some real data. Here we go. That's the ideal scene for the telecommunication systems around the world. But here we go. The companies with the biggest schemes include SpaceX with 12,000 satellites, OneWeb with 4,560 satellites, Boeing 2,956 satellites, Spire Global 972 satellites. Honeywell has already signed a memorandum of understanding to become OneWeb's first large customer. It plans to provide high-speed Wi-Fi on business, commercial, and military aircraft throughout the world. Oh my God, that's amazing, isn't it? I still think that's BS when I looked at it for the first time. And I said, let me verify these sources. Oh, there you go. The more I get, the more it's like scary. I had to go, oh, I don't get scared easy, but this did scare the shit out of me, to be honest with you. SpaceX would like to provide the equivalent of 5G to every person on the planet. Hurrah for 5G. Wonder how long ago did it start? I wonder which is the cities who got the first 5G all over. Wonder where would that be? Could that be in China? Nah. How many satellites are being launched into space? Let's look at the numbers. In 2019, at least 8 companies and governments are competing to send up fleets from 150 to 42,000 satellites each. SpaceX, based in the United States, has plans for 42,000 satellites. It's already launching 60 at a time, twice a month, and is developing a larger rocket that can launch 120 at a time. Isn't that so pretty? Okay, we go. As soon as 420 satellites are in orbit, it plans to turn them on. That could be as early as February 2020. What year? What date are we on? If I'm not mistaken, we're already March 2020. So they've been doing this shit for a while, aren't they? Here we go. OneWeb, based in the United Kingdom, has plans for 5,260 satellites and intends to launch 30 at a time every 3 to 4 weeks, beginning in January 2020. As soon as 300 satellites are in orbit, in late 2020, it plans to turn them on. There you go. There we go. Telesat, based in Canada, has plans for 512 satellites and intends to begin service in 2021. Amazon has plans for 3,236 satellites and intends to begin service as soon as 578 are in orbit. I wonder if they already are in orbit. Link has plans for several thousand satellites and intends to begin service in 2023. The future doesn't look so good, does it? Facebook has plans for thousands of satellites, but has not disclosed its plans for the public. Roscosmos, the Russian space agency, has plans for 640 satellites to be deployed between 2022 and 2026. Only if we're going to make it by that. Anyway, Aerospace Science and Industry Corp, a Chinese state-owned company, has plans for 156 satellites to be placed by 2022. In addition to these satellite plans, Loon, a subsidiary of Google, has a contract to provide internet to remote areas of the Amazon. So I thought that if I would move to Amazon, I'd be okay. Amazon rainforest in Peru from stratospheric balloons. So look this up, all right? Starlink's satellites will be orbiting at a much lower altitude. Oh, reducing the risk of space junk. Oh my God, that's like a picture of that. Among Elon Musk's many plans for the future, one of the more ambitious has been the creation of a constellation of satellites that will offer broadband internet access to the entire world, known as Starlink. The company's long-term plan is to deploy over 12,000 internet satellites to low Earth orbit by the mid-2020s. What year are we on now? This news comes in the heels of the company receiving approval from the Federal Communications Commission to launch satellites to a lower orbit than originally specified. Originally, SpaceX intended to launch 4,425 satellites to non-geostationary orbits, ranging from 1,100 and 1,300 kilometers. Oh, which would transmit in the Q and K radio bands. No kidding. However, due to the growing competition from other satellite internet providers, SpaceX decided to expedite its plans and presented a modified plan for the FCC. This took place in the fall of 2018, when the company announced that the first batch would be launched to a lower altitude, lower, 550 kilometers, 340 miles, starting in May of 2019. The company also indicated that this batch would have a simplified design and transmit only in the Q band. Oh, you're kidding. Thank you. This lower altitude was selected to minimize the risk posed by space junk. Oh, pobrecito. But will also allow the company to send more satellites into orbit sooner. The lower insertion orbit will not only allow the Falcon 9 rockets that will be deploying the satellites to carry heavier payloads, it will also mean shorter transmission times and that the first batch of satellites will fall back on Earth sooner. Oh my God, so they're going to clean the garbage out. That's very, very amazing. Thank you for cleaning the garbage out. So anyway, if you think that this is just for the future, I don't know if you've seen this map. T-Mobile, that was 4G. Now pay attention. That's 5G in present time. Every with that is a tower. Now go and correlate where we have the biggest amount of coronavirus outbreaks and shit, and see if you find the city there. Get some updates on. Oh, and by the way, that's only T-Mobile. We have AT&T and we have Verizon. Oh my God. So when you see those bulls, they have their own little shit. That means there are 2, 3, 4 at the same time putting all these waves out there, just in case you decide to move from Verizon to AT&T or something like that. So when you see that shit, that's all these different companies, all in that tower, all transmitting at the same time. But anyway, so here's some statements by physicians, scientists, and health policy experts. I'm going to read a few. Since it's there, you can pause it and read the rest, okay? Here's this guy. His name is Robert Becker, PhD, Nobel Prize nominee, noted for decades of research on the effects of electromagnetic radiation. He says that I have no doubt in my mind that at present time, the greatest polluting element in the Earth's environment is the proliferation of electromagnetic fields. You're kidding. How about this guy? Dr. William Ram, founder director of the Environmental Health Center, Dallas, past president, blah, 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 blah. Okay, here we go. Sensitivity to electromagnetic radiation is the emerging health problem of the 21st century. It is imperative health practitioners, government, schools, and parents learn more about it. The human health stakes are significant. That's two. There's literally hundreds of studies of these really incredible, very recognized people, honorable people who say, we're fucked. Okay. We continue doing this. But anyway, let's continue. Here we go. Martin Blank, PhD, Associate Professor at the Department of Columbia University. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. Cells in the body react to electromagnetic fields as potentially harmful, just like to other environmental toxins, including heavy metal and toxic materials. The DNA in living cells recognizes electromagnetic fields at a very low levels of exposure and produces a biochemical stress response. That means you're going to get sick. The scientific evidence tells us that our safety standards are inadequate and that we must protect ourselves from exposure to these electromagnetic fields due to power lines, cell phones, and the like, or risks the known consequences. Well, there you go. The science is very strong, and we should sit up and pay attention. Now, they've been telling us this for years. So why is it that we don't know? It's interesting, isn't it? Here we go. This guy. I think this guy is awesome, too. Ole Johansson, Associate Professor of Experimental Dermatology Unit, Department of Neuroscience. Read the whole thing. It is evident that various biological alterations, including immune system modulation, are present in electro-hypersensitive persons. There must be an end to the pervasive nonchalance, indifference, and lack of heartfelt respect for the plight of these people. Can you mention anybody who isn't electromagnetically sensitive? Well, because some of it's sensitive more than others, but they're still getting hit. So he talks about why we should pay attention, but in those times when he wrote it, he was always focusing on this specific people. He didn't just focus on the illness and disease like others experts have. He says that I strongly advise all governments to take the issue of electromagnetic health hazards seriously and to take actions while there's still time. No joda. Still time, okay. There's too great a risk that the ever-increasing RF-based communications technology represent a real danger to humans, especially because of their exponential, ongoing and unchecked growth. Governments should act decisively to protect public health by changing the exposure standards to the biologically based, communicating the results of the independent science on this topic, and aggressively researching links with a multitude of associated medical conditions. Since all these studies that they're thinking with are, I wonder who finances those things. Here we go. David Carpenter, professor of environmental sciences, University of Albany. Okay, here we go. Electromagnetic fields are packets of energy that does not have any mass, and visible light is what we know best. X-rays are also electromagnetic fields, but they are more energetic than visible light. Our concern is that for those electromagnetic fields that are less energetic than visible light, including those that are associated with electricity and those used for communications and in microwave ovens. Studies of people have shown that both types of energy result in an increased rise of cancer, and that this occurs at intensities that are too low to cause tissue heating, which means According to the studies that communications company have done and financed, they say, no, it's totally not harmless because it doesn't get warm. It's been proven that you don't have to get warm. It doesn't have to heat up. He says in this other stuff here, too. Here you go. You read it, guys. You read it. All right. He says there, thus it is important that all of us, and especially children, restrict our use of cell phones, limit exposure to background levels of Wi-Fi, and that government and industry discover ways in which to allow use of wireless devices without such elevated risk of serious disease. We need to educate decision makers that business, as usual, is unacceptable. The importance of this public health issue cannot be underestimated. No shit. Here we go. How about this guy? This guy's also very famous. Eric Braveman. Read the whole thing. Expert in the brain global impact of illness and health. There is no question electromagnetic force fields have a major effect on neurological functioning. They slow our brain waves and affect our long-term mental clarity. Like Alzheimer's and stuff. No kidding. We should minimize exposures as much as possible to optimize neurotransmitter levels and prevent deterioration of health. How about this guy? Abraham, PhD, Research Professor, Center for Molecular Biology. The overall problem with environmental electromagnetism is much deeper, not only of concern at power line frequencies, but also in the radio frequency range encompassing mobile phones. Here, the public's continuing exposure to electromagnetism radiation is largely connected to money. Money. Indeed, the tens of billions of dollars in sales one finds in the cell phone industry makes it mandatory to corporate leaders that they deny in knee-jerk fashion any indication of hazard. You know, I had a friend, he actually emailed me. He works installing these things, and he says that whatever I was writing was totally true. That all these technicians suffer from shit like that. Here we go. This other guy, Leonard Hardell, professor of Universal Hospital, blah, blah, blah. Here we go. The evidence for risk from prolonged cell phone and cordless phone use is quite strong when you look at people who have used these devices for 10 years or longer, and when they are used mainly on one side of the head. Recent studies that do not report increased risk of brain tumors and acoustic neuromas have not looked at heavy users, okay? Use over 10 years or longer, and do not look at the part of the brain which would reasonably have exposure to produce a tumor. This guy, Dirty Electricity, he's the author of this book, right? First scientist to report increased leukemia and other cancers in electrical workers, and to demonstrate that the childhood age peak in leukemia emerged in conjunction with the spread of residential electrification. Very recently, new research is suggesting that nearly all the human plagues which emerged in the 20th century, like common acute lymphoblastic leukemia in children, female breast cancer, malignant melanoma, and asthma, can be tied to those facets of our use of electricity. I talked about that in the other lecture. There's an urgent need for governments and individuals to take steps to minimize community and personal electromagnetic fields exposures. How about this guy? Lloyd Morgan, Electronic Engineering Director, Central Brain Tumor Registry of the United States. There we go. There's a very indication that cell phones cause brain tumors, salivary gland tumors, and eye cancer. Yet, because the cell phone industry provides a substantial proportion of research funding, this reality is hidden from the general public. The Interphone study, a 13-country research project substantially funded by the cell phone industry, has consistently shown that use of a cell phone protects the user from risk of a brain tumor. Does anything more need to be said? That's like the fox creating the policy on how to take care of chickens. I should put a picture there. It is time that fully independent studies be funded by those governmental agencies whose charter is to protect its citizens so that the truth about the very damaging health hazards of microwave radiation becomes clear and well known. I don't know about you guys, but I don't know, man. How about this guy? Clinical professor of medicine, blah, blah, Paul Claims that cell phones pose no health hazards are supported solely by specific absorption rate. Limit safety standards written by the telecommunications industry decades ago based on studies they funded. You're kidding. These have made the erroneous assumption that the only harm that could come from cell phone radio frequency emissions would be from a thermal heating action. Remember we talked about it? Since such non-thermal fuels can be no biological effect, supposedly. You're kidding. Here you go, guys. More research, okay? This is what people say. We're constantly being bathed in the increasing sea of radiation from exposure to the above. There you go. Anyway, more and more data. Here, read it for yourself. Here's the part that hurts me and may bring you to your attention. He says that children are more severely affected because their brains are developing and their skulls are thinner. You have any children like this? A 2-minute call can alter brain function in a child for an hour, which is why other countries ban their sale or discourage their use under the age of 18. In contrast, this is the segment of the population now being targeted here in the $2 billion U.S. advertising campaign that views tweens, children between 8 and 12 years old, as the next big phone market. Anyway, Firefly and Barbie cell phones are also being promoted to 6 to 8 years old. There we go. That's 10 times. What it says, it is not generally appreciated that there's a cumulative effect and that talking on a cell phone for just an hour a day for 10 years can add up to 10,000 watts of radiation. That's 10 times more than from putting your head in a microwave oven. Pregnant women may also be at increased risk based on a study showing that children born to mothers who used a cell phone just 2 or 3 times a day during pregnancy showed a dramatic increase in hyperactivity and other behavior and emotional problems. There we go. Pregnant with her phone. There we go. And for the 30% of children who had also used a cell phone by age 7, the incidence of behavioral problems was 80% higher. Oh, you mean hyperactivity? All right, here we go. So this is my personal comment on what's really going on, right? There's a difference between ignorance and evil, but there's definitely a connection. As a teacher, I have met and handled and helped literally thousands of people. And I can see the difference or the connection. Let me give you an example. In World War II, after World War II, they arrested generals and sergeants and army people from the German army. And they put them on trial and they executed them. You know that when the majority were asked, why did you do that? The majority said, well, I was just following orders. And then the other part would said, hey, I didn't know that was going on in those concentration camps. You're kidding. They still hang him or shot him. Let me tell you about a word, okay? Justification. Justification is the form or method used to reduce a hostile or destructive act. We can explain away everything we wish to explain away to let's not confront the shit that we're doing sometimes. We can talk bad about people who we do harm to, so like that you don't feel bad about it. But right now at this point in time, in the condition we're in right now, it's not just a regular hostile act or destructive act to continue acting stupid. Do you understand that? It's your life, your children's life, your relatives' lives. The data is the data, whether you like it or not. I don't like it. As a matter of fact, I got a little emotional when I said, "What the fuck? What the hell's going on with my life?" But I also understood that there was a reason why I have the abilities I have, and I've been able to communicate. And there's still time that we can do something about it. At least become more aware and protect those who will survive and not be so screwed up after that. But at the rate we're going, is really being really very optimistic that there's still time. I'm going to do the best I can, at least for my own sake, my own consciousness, that I just don't sit here and have a very hostile, destructive act of omission and not doing something. I urge you to spread the data and let them decide. If they want to do that, let them be. But you just kept what you commit, which is I gave you the data, you decide. That's what I'm doing with you. You decide. As a teacher, I don't convince people. I just go, here's the data, you decide. There's actually a course I'm going to be delivering after all this, and it's called How to Think. How to think properly, how to make proper decisions. Really problem is we don't know how to think. The data's there. Look, it took me just a couple of days to pick up all this information. But because I can distinguish the good apples and the good oranges from the bad oranges, I can pick it up real fast. But you should have the ability to do that as well. You should be able to understand when someone's bullshitting you, man. You understand? But this whole planet is just full of that. And that's the positive thing about this so-called coronavirus, right? It's really making people stop in their own tracks and go, what the hell is really going on? I hope I'm doing my end to help you. Here's the data, okay? On the next, um, there we go. On the next lecture, which is number 4, if you want to do that, if you want to continue, if not, then if you didn't continue, that's up to you. But anyway, if you're interested in receiving the truth of the coronavirus, part 4, which is basically know what you can do immediately, then send me a message through WhatsApp, through the emails, or the way you got this thing, this conference, this lecture. Okay? It's really up to you. All right. So I wish you the best. That's as much as I can do. Spread the data, share it. And next time I'll show you, I have friends, very close friends. They're actually scientists. They're doctors, they're specialists. And I have a knack for being in communication with these people, you know. I admire them. I respect them very highly. And I know when they're bullshitting you or they don't know anything. Sometimes they just say, this is all I know, you know. I've actually been surprising them, many of them, with the data. I'm like, I didn't never read this before. If you like the PDF on where all this data is coming, let me know also. I'll send it to you. I promised I did, and I will. And I will see you in part 4, which you'll learn what to do immediately, what you can do to do something about it. Okay? And trust me, it's not something that you think we all know. Now that we know the data, now we can do something about it. Okay? See you in part 4. Bye-bye for now.